Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Ljuba?
Terrific.
And today, what are we going to be doing in the kitchen?
We're going to make challah.
Fabulous.
I'll give you a little bit of history about challah. Challah is the special sweet bread that is made for the Sabbath. And traditionally, challah was actually the sacrifice that was offered during the days of the Holy Temple. And a little portion of that bread that was offered was set aside for the priests. And since we no longer have the Holy Temple in existence, we don't have to perform that mitzvah, that special commandment of challah. That little piece of bread is actually the challah, that sacrifice. In modern days, though, in recognition of the days of the temple, we do take a tiny little bit of this bread and we burn it, and we say a special blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Asher Kiddushanu B'Mitzvotav L'Chafrish Challah. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, who has commanded us to separate the challah. So, we're going to start the process now. It's a sweet bread, and it is made with flour, a good amount of sugar, eggs, yeast. The process takes about 3.5 hours from start to finish because you want it to rise twice.
Wonderful.
Okie doke. So the first thing I do is start measuring the ingredients that go into that need some preparation before we start the kneading process. The first thing I do is measure the yeast, and I use 3 tablespoons of active dry yeast. 1, 2, 3, and I'll throw in a tablespoon of sugar in the mix because yeast, it helps in the rising process. And then I'll dissolve this yeast in very warm water. And I want it to get foamy. And so I use about 1.5 cups to 2 cups.
That's 2 cups right there.
Right there. Give it a little bit of a stir so that I get all of the dried yeast dissolved. And what is going to happen next is it's going to get foamy and rise. Next thing I'm going to do is take a stick of margarine, which is 1/2 cup, or 1/2 cup of oil, or if I'm making a dairy meal, 1/2 cup of butter, and I melt it, and I want that to cool, and then
The oil. Let me interrupt now. The
Yes.
oil. Would you be using vegetable oil?
I use vegetable oil.
Okay.
Vegetable oil. And we need 4 eggs that I'll beat, and in just a minute you'll be able to see the yeast is beginning to get a little foamy. I do it in this order so that the yeast has time to properly dissolve. The yeast is the first thing I do. The butter's the second. If I'm using butter or oil, and the eggs are the last of the preparing ingredients. So I want to get them well beaten. Now for the dry ingredients, I use 7 cups of flour. I usually measure 6 cups and have a 7th cup ready, and so often it depends on the weather. Whether or not you need a little more flour or a little less flour. So I have it handy and ready to work it into the dough, because what you want to have is a nice, pliable, glossy dough. So 1, 2, come on, don't want anything to burn, 2.
And what is the weather like today
Gorgeous.
on Martha's Vineyard? Cold day?
A perfect day for baking.
Yes.
Perfect day. 4. 5. 6. And here is my 7th cup ready to work in. And you know, as you saw me measuring, I kind of didn't worry about flour falling on the table, because actually I'm going to use this flour to work into the
For
dough.
the kneading.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I took my rings off at the beginning. You might want to do that. And of course you wash your hands before you begin.
And your service and your area, you have cleaned before you start working.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's the nurse in me.
And the nurse and me.
And the nurse and Sally. Okay, 1/2 cup of sugar. And I learned how to cook from my grandmother, who never measured anything. So I need a tablespoon of salt.
And she goes right in her hand.
So I know how much it is, and just to show you, here
Perfect.
we go.
Perfect.
And I like to just take a whisk or a fork or, you know, anything, just to get all the dry ingredients mixed together. And now I just want you to see how foamy the yeast is.
Come a little closer.
Okay.
And that's it.
There, can you
Let me
see? It's nice and
Okay.
foamy. And so what I'm going to do is, with a wooden spoon, pour the egg in. And I'll pour the yeast in, mixing it all together. And I'm doing it in this order because I want the butter or the margarine to have cooled a little bit, which it has. I don't want it to kill the yeast,
Right.
and I don't want it to curdle the eggs.
Okay. So you under low heat,
And I put that in at the very
Okay.
end.
beautiful.
And as I'm stirring it into the dry mixture, I kind of let it slide down the side of the bowl. And now, just with the spoon, want to get everything smushkied up together, mixed well. And before I turn it onto the surface, the working surface. And as you can see, it's a very soft, very sticky dough right now. Turn it out onto the table.
Do you want to push your flour a little bit forward? Thank you.
There.
Then we can watch you knead.
Yeah, because the secret to, I think the secret to my challah. Now everybody has their own special way of doing it, but for me it's all in the kneading.
Yes.
And many people have asked me, do you use a bread machine or do you use a dough hook? And I can't do that. Somehow it's so zen to sit there, and it's my habit every Friday morning to get up, we'll make some breakfast, and start the bread right away.
Fabulous.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful process. I'm going to rinse this bowl out because the bread's going to rise in that bowl. And I want to make sure that there's no dry dough on the surface.
Right.
Because I want the entire consistency to be smooth and as perfect as it can be. See, Sally, in nursing, when we were in nursing school, they would tell us, do everything to save yourself the fewest number of steps that you possibly can. So pick up your ingredients or, do 2 things at once or 3 things at once, and nothing has changed, right?
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. So, yep, nursing school was good training to be a cook.
That's right.
So the bread was double in bulk. I've punched it down, and it's a nice full loaf here. Just
You should maybe move the bowl. Maybe you could put it on the other side. Thank you.
okay. I'm going to just divide the dough in sections. I'm going to make 2 challahs. I'm going to make a little one for you, Sally, to take to your mom.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
And I'm going to make 2 braids.
Okay.
And actually, the easiest way of braiding is to do a 3 braid.
Like braiding a hair.
Like braiding hair. Very, very easy.
That's what I do. Not a French braid.
Not a French braid. Not a French braid. And we roll we cut the section of bread into 3 pieces, make 3 long strands, and you kind of want to have the ends of the strand tapered so that the challah has a fat middle.
Oh.
And see, it's sort of
Yes.
fat in the middle.
Your mother's, I'm doing a movie for your mother. Can she call you back in a few minutes?
Yeah, just later in the day because I'm jumping into the train.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Exactly.
That was your son.
Davy.
Call him later.
I will.
He's jumping in a train.
Okay. And so I've got 3 braids. I like to start in the middle with the braid.
That's wonderful.
And
That's how we get those beautiful challahs that you make.
we get it sort of
Fat in
skinny
the
at
middle.
the end, fat in the middle, and then I flip it over and continue the braiding like so. Or as my grandmother would say, atazoi.
Atazoi, what does that mean?
Well, oh boy, atazoi. How would I translate it? Maybe and so it is. Something like that. Unfortunately, I'm not too much of a Yiddish scholar.
That's okay, Ljuba.
No. Now, if it were in Hebrew, it would be another story. That I could deal with. But Yiddish, unfortunately.
My grandmother spoke Yiddish all the time, and my aunts. I didn't understand them, but it sounded good.
It sounded good.
You understand, but you don't understand. Maybe the soul in us understands. The soul does.
I think so. I always say that Jews have a genetic memory.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's ingrained in us. We kind of
I think you're right.
know who we are from the very beginning. I'm trying to even out this one strand that, there we go. So, one more braid. And then I flip it over so that I can get evenness on. And see?
Beautiful.
Another little braid. Like this.
I'm going to come in close. That's beautiful.
And
You want to hold that up again? Maybe bring it over here so we can see?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I'm going to cover these with a towel so that they rise a second time and double in bulk. And now I'll make a
Little one.
little one for you.
Do you put, let me ask you afterwards, because we won't be showing this on the tape, you take egg?
I take egg, 1 beaten egg. Some people use egg yolk. I use the whole egg.
Okay.
And I brush it all over the loaf. And I use a wonderful little tool like this. It's a silicone, I guess, silicone brush. And it...
Show it to us. Come a little closer.
Can you get a little closer?
Yeah. Lovely. Oh,
And
yes.
it's a wonderful tool. When I didn't have this, I used my fingers because I felt that a bristle brush
Right.
pressed down too much on the bread and impacted the shape. And I
Okay.
didn't want that to happen. So, and this works wonderfully well. There are all these wonderful baking surfaces now using silicone and they're great. They really are great. So I'm going to make this little challah so that it rises in a loaf pan and it will slice very easily. It'll be like a loaf of bread. I've already sprayed it with Pam. This is your typical loaf size pan. Putting it inside.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to cover it with a little towel. And
How long does it usually take to rise again?
I would say that this will probably rise within a half hour.
Okay, and then you
And
bake?
then bake it for a half hour. I've got the oven preheating at 350. As soon as it rises, then I brush it. And
Okay.
you sprinkle it with poppy seeds or sesame seeds, and in my family,
Sugar.
sugar, because Shabbat is sweet.
Beautiful.
And that's it.
That's wonderful, Ljuba. Thank you so much. Would you like to mention that we are going to make a few more films, and
We'll
you like
do
to
a few more sessions of demonstrating different Jewish foods, different recipes, and pretty much old-fashioned recipes. Things that I remember my grandmother making. Maybe we'll make mandelbrot one day. There was a request for teglach. We'll make teglach. That's kind of a project, but I have a couple of very, very good recipes for that. That's something that's traditionally served on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And
Hamantaschen?
Hamantaschen for Purim, and
Kugel.
possibly blintzes and kugel.
That would be
for,
wonderful.
which are typical dairy dishes. We'll make them as dairy, like a dairy kugel. Milchik for Shavuot, because the tradition is to eat dairy foods. And people wonder, why do you eat dairy foods on Shavuot? And the reason is that studying Torah, which we received the first time on Shavuot, the Torah is likened to milk and honey. So, therefore, we have dairy foods.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Ljuba. And we'll see you next time
Okay.
in Ljuba's Kitchen, Cooking with Ljuba.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shalom.